Now, there are obviously many burning questions tonight, but here are just 5 that I've picked out, and I'm sure you're asking these very same questions. The first that Vishnu and I have, is there a Pakistani link to the Delhi terror attack? Now, remember, it is a Jaish module that has been linked, Vishnu, to this attack, but no direct link across the border or across the LOC has been established yet in public. There may well be something within our security grid, but it has not emerged so far. That's the first question.
Yeah, and just to that point very briefly, because we've got our guests with us as well, I refuse to believe that there is no Pakistani hand in this.
Has to be.
There is a Pakistani hand. At what time these people were indoctrinated, who was responsible, the linkages that person may have had with somebody in Pakistan, that's going to be very difficult to prove, but that's why we have investigators, and that is their job.
The second question we're asking tonight, what will the Cabinet Committee on Security that's scheduled to meet tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., chaired by the Prime Minister? It has all the big ministers, it has the intelligence chiefs, the military chiefs, etc., all sitting around a table and figuring out, taking stock of the situation and figuring out what to do. We won't second guess that, but that's going to be important as well, Vishnu. Prime Minister returns from Bhutan tomorrow, and that's CCS, which is routine whenever something big security related happens in the country. But there will be all eyes on this because of how much has changed since Operation Sindhu. Third question, Vishnu.
Under new rules of engagement, and the point over here is when Pahalgam took place, India made it clear that there is no new normal, that Pakistan does something, India doesn't respond. We did Op Sindoor, we hit them extremely hard, and we reiterated that that is the normal. The normal is that India will respond. But again, and I've been saying this since yesterday, if there is some sort of Indian retaliation, it's not going to be knee-jerk. And I think that is important to understand. Don't expect something tomorrow, don't expect something next week either. It might be years potentially before something takes place, because you don't do military strikes, and that's what we're talking about, for the sake of doing military strikes. It has to achieve something tangible.
That's right. Remember that when the Pahalgam terror attack happened, Operation Sindoor followed about 2 weeks later. There was no warning, there was no sense of what was going to happen. It came out of the blue, and that is the whole point of India responding at a time and place of its choosing. So we will not second guess on what our military and what our security establishment will do, but it's a question that must be asked because, as Vishnu described, there is a new dynamic in terms of what India's response mechanism is. And our final question tonight, which we will be taking to our guests, are there bigger lessons to be learned from what happened in Delhi 27 hours ago than just the binaries of an attack response metric? Is there something much more troubling at play? The fact that there were white-collar terrorists who were involved in what could have potentially been a much larger attack. Doctors, 5 of them, 6 according to some reports, who've been apprehended by our security agencies, leading to an alarming new dynamic in terms of the kinds of people who are being radicalized and indoctrinated to become terrorists. Let's welcome our guests tonight, Vishnu, because the big question overall, the overall arching question that we're all wondering is what next? Is India going to respond? Not in such a simple way, but what lies in front of India right now? What are the options? What is, what's going to be on our leadership's mind at this point of time, given just 6 months ago, we practically went to war with Pakistan, welcoming Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, former General Officer Commanding of the 15 Corps in Kashmir, Vikram Singh, former Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh, and Air Marshal VPS Rana, who's a well-known veteran and a defense analyst. Welcome to all of you. General Dhillon, I'll quickly come to you first, sir. Your reading of where things are at as far as India is concerned. I want to keep this discussion as forward-looking as possible. The investigation into the terror attack is taking place. We'll let the investigators look at, how this all happened, what lapses may have led to it, etc. But from a national security perspective, in a year when Operation Sindoor has just happened, how are you looking at yesterday's attack and what could come next, sir?
Good evening, Shiv, and good evening, Vishnu, and fellow panelists and viewers. First of all, the national security aspects. See what got seized in Faridabad, the 2,900 kgs of ammonium nitrate, 20-odd detonators, 24 remote control units. This whole thing has a typical Jaish-e-Mohammed footprint. The number of times the car was changing hands, Just for the information of viewers, the Pulwama suicide ID blast, the car blast, that particular car, Maruti Eco, had changed hands 7 times. And it was the 8th owner who finally came and blew the car up. And that was again Jaish-e-Mohammed. Now coming back to the 20 detonators and 24 remote control units and 2,900 kgs of ammonium nitrate, that practically means that particular seizure could well have been converted into at least 20 separate bombs or 20 separate IEDs. And this is what has been captured or seized. We don't know, this particular car was not seized, and how many such cars or how many such packages or how many such number of explosives are still out in the open.
Okay.
If you go by the previous history, the multiple simultaneous attacks used to be, bomb attacks used to happen.
Absolutely. General, just give me half a second.
May it be otherwise.
Let me just take this, my question to Vikram Singh. And sir, my concern in all of this is that we as a country shouldn't believe that whenever there is military action against Pakistan, the tap on terror gets switched off. I think all of us would know that despite Op Sindoor, the possibility of terrorism hitting India was very real. This being the case, what does India do? Do we just knee-jerk and hit them back because they can attack us again? What exactly would be the smart way forward?
Good evening, gentlemen. Terrorism and engagement with Pakistan are two sides of the same coin. It is a part of the information warfare, it is a part of the 5th generation warfare, and indeed, if we address terrorism, it is a part of the scheme of Ghazwa-e-Hind to bleed India by 1,000 cuts. And to ignore that, indeed, would be living in a fool's paradise, and I don't think a vibrant nation, an India that has indeed emerged as a powerful economy in the world, it is the luxury that we cannot possibly afford to have. We have illustrious ex-veterans of the Army and the Air Force who will bear me out and say that we are fully prepared to give a befitting reply, because one is so closely intertwined to the other. We address Pakistan and Jaish-e-Mohammed, we address internal security. We address internal security, we address Pakistan and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And yes, indeed, there is something that we need to do, a course correction within the country also. There are those who address the terrorists as Hafiz G, Osama G, and Zakir Naik is an apostle of peace. These rhetoric have to end once and for all. We have to call a spade a shovel and let everybody know that India has zero tolerance to this kind of misdemeanors. Today, there are those, I'm happy that everybody is praising our investigating agencies, but there are those who question our investigating and say that it was the failure of the intelligence. The Mossad is the best in the world. What happened on 7th of October?
No,
what
absolutely. I agree with you, sir. The investigation part is sacrosanct. And, while the questions must be asked about intelligence, etc., at the end of the day, this is a story in motion, as Vishnu and I frequently call it. Things are changing rapidly. New facts are emerging literally by the minute. Air Marshal Rana, 6 months ago, Vishnu and I were in Jammu and Kashmir reporting on Operation Sindoor. We saw in real time how India's rules of engagement with terror actually changed at a policy level. And that's the reason why this story and this question that we're asking has even more resonance. When Vishnu says, how will India respond? It's not a black and white question anymore, because the Indian leadership has literally said, this is the template of how we're going to treat terror from now on. Now, nobody is suggesting, airstrikes should follow or military action should follow, but a template has been set. And obviously, there is going to be anticipation. How do you read it, sir?
Thank you, Vishnu and Som. I think, first of all, there is, at the core of it, I think, there's an emboldened ecosystem in Islamabad and in Pakistan, which is behind all this. And if we are saying, government may have its own reason not to announce at this stage that it is Pakistan, but it is, like my fellow panelists also said, it is Pakistan written all over it. It's a Pulwama module written all over it. That being so, we can be assured that this is not the last time Pakistan is going to do this. So, like in past, we have had the graded responses, whether it was from the Uri, then we scaled it up after Pulwama with Balakot strike, and then Op Sindoor. Obviously, if you go by that logic of graded response, possibly we would wanting to be much more, and that is what probably in the general understanding of the public would be that probably India would go many notches above that. But it may not exactly be so, like Vishnu said. It has to be a very, very deliberate and calibrated action on our part. And maybe that is the reason why we haven't so far from the government side declared it that this is a Pakistani hand indeed. But nevertheless, I'm sure tomorrow when the CCS meets, there are plans which are afoot. There are many, many ways, not necessarily the airstrike, not necessarily there are many other ways also by which you can economically, diplomatically isolate Pakistan. And at the end of this, it has to be that Pakistan has to be made to feel the pinch and has to bear the cost of any of these actions. So that question that every act of terror will be an act of war, I think will be honored. And hereinafter, then whatever actions that are going to be discussed tomorrow in CCS are going to be very, very deliberate and calibrated moves.
No, in
and
fact,
are
Marshal,
capable of doing any actions.
Yeah,
whether
Marshal Ghana, just to keep the strike rotating, I think you make a very important point. General Dhillon, would you agree that we need to not get ahead of ourselves in saying that there has been a terror attack and therefore at some stage there needs to be a military strike? There needs to be something else for Pakistan to feel the pinch. But I would then argue that we've already done a lot when it comes to water sharing. We've said it doesn't exist between India and Pakistan. Economically, they've been impacted by that. Diplomatically, they stand isolated at this stage as well. Overflights from Pakistan to India do not take place. This being the case, short of military action, is there anything else that we can do to make them feel a pinch?
Vishnu, as Air Marshal Rana and Mr. Vikram Singh also said, action will be taken. But the point is, nations and militaries do not take actions based on sentiments or emotions. Nations and militaries work out their options and very seriously think it through. And then they take the action, and they take the action at the time and place of their own choosing. And as like you are saying, other fellow panelists also saying, military option may not be the only option. Military option may be in conjunction with other options, or military option may be the only option. So everything is possible, everything is on the table, and more importantly, it must be hit where it hurts. And in Pakistani Punjabi Musliman pride must be hit. He is the one whose that Pahalwani pride has to be shown the door. And once he is humiliated, that is when the Pakistanis will realize that Pakistani Musliman, Punjabi Musliman is not able to save them, is not able to protect them. But as others have also said, I am very sure this is not the last one from Pakistan, because the internal situation of Pakistan is so bad that to divert attention of the public...
All right, I've got some breaking news coming in at this stage. I'm just going to read it out. There's a statement from the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson which has just come out. And Shiv, you might have a little bit more context than I do on this.
Yeah.
In response to media queries regarding remarks made by the Pakistani leadership, this is what the External Affairs Ministry said. This is the sharpest language I've heard in a while. India unequivocally rejects the baseless and unfounded allegations being made by an obviously delirious Pakistani leadership. It is a predictable tactic by Pakistan to concoct false narratives against India in order to deflect the attention of its own public from the ongoing military-inspired unconstitutional subversion and power grab unfolding within the country. The international community is well aware of the reality and will not be misled by Pakistan's desperate diversionary ploys. What are they talking about?
So this is the context of this, gentleman, in case you're just plugging into this, is there was a blast outside the Islamabad High Court today. There was a big vehicular blast outside the Islamabad High Court today. And obviously, guess who they've blamed for it? It is in context of that you've got the External Affairs Ministry now responding to Pakistan and saying, stop trying to divert and fool your domestic audiences. This is obviously your.
Will we do a full program on the use of the words delirious Pakistani leadership?
Delirious Pakistani leadership.
I've never heard the MEA use the word delirious before, but carry on, Shiv.
This is the External Affairs Ministry being, in my view, actually being more mild than necessary when it comes to dealing with the Pakistanis. But who better than the External Affairs Ministry to put things a little mildly? They've got a lot on their hands right now.
This wasn't mild, Shiv. Quite to the contrary.
And by the way, Vishnu, this blast that took place outside the Islamabad High Court has also killed 12 people. A dozen people have died in that attack as well. It was also a vehicle-based IED that exploded. Some similarities as well, but something that Pakistan instinctively pointed at India about. And we'll get into that as well in a little bit. And this is going to go on, this exchange between India and Pakistan. But the most alarming thing, Vishnu, that we've been talking about it all day, Vishnu was on the ground through the day as well outside the Red Fort. The most alarming thing about 27 hours ago in Delhi is that the people responsible and the people who've been arrested and the person believed to be the bomber inside that car are all medical doctors, Vishnu, which is why this white-collar terror angle is front and center in what we're talking about. Let's put those pictures on our screen of all those doctors. This is known as the Faridabad Jaish-e-Mohammed module. Vishnu, 30 kilometers from where we're sitting is the university that's been raided today, where all of these people actually worked.
Can I just say that this is the most horrific aspect of all of this? Obviously, the loss of life is terrible. But the fact that people who have trained for years, who have succeeded in becoming professionals, who have sworn an oath to save lives, decide that they're going to end lives, it reflects an element of radicalization and delirium, I dare say, which is bizarre, which is absolutely tragic. Who, Shiv, was the person who was actually indoctrinating them? We have information.
That's right. We've got that breaking. Let me just name all the people on our screen, from my right here. You've got Dr. Adil, you've got Dr. Muzamil, you've got Dr. Shaheen, and you've got Dr. Umar, who is the suicide bomber. But who was training them? Who was facilitating them? Who was indoctrinating them? This is what we're getting from our sources on who could be the blast mastermind. And it is a Kashmiri imam based in Shopian, who is believed now to be the man who was training, brainwashing and indoctrinating these medical students and converting them in some ways into terrorists. The accused frequently showed Jaish-e-Mohammed videos and was actually the man apparently behind what is now known as the Faridabad module of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It is still scary to say Faridabad module, Vishnu, given that Faridabad is part of the Delhi NCR region. It's part of India's national capital metropolitan area.
And just, a point of, adding to what Shiv actually has to say, among the people who have been arrested includes one person who was actually trying to produce ricin. Ricin is a poison. It can be dispersed in the air. He was arrested a few days back in Gujarat. He is also a part of this module. He may not be Faridabad, but all of these doctors were associated and linked. And I dare say the fact that the earlier arrests of at least 4 of them took place meant that people like Umar Mohammed, who was killed in that blast after that IED didn't properly explode, but it did of course kill many people still. It was people like Umar Mohammed who were on the run because of the actions of the police and the ability of these police forces in actually arresting all of the others, interrogating them, and then figuring out that there is almost 3 tons of explosive in that house in Faridabad besides everything else.
So an imam named Irfan in Shopian has been apprehended, understood for now to be one of the masterminds, though we can all agree that the real mastermind is sitting across the border inside Pakistan. But I want to bring our guests back in, Vikram Singh, and let's put on our screen right now all of the doctors, all of the medical doctors who've been arrested now as part of this Faridabad module. Mr. Vikram Singh, what is your take on this? This is, this is disturbing at a completely different level. Qualified MBBS graduates, medical doctors, all part of a terrorist module. One of them presumably killed in the strike itself in Delhi yesterday. The other three, his accomplices who were part of a university between Faridabad and Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Singh.
Gentlemen, I take you to Al Falah University in Faridabad, and all these 4 accused, 1 deceased and 3 alive, have something to do with Al Falah University. Al Falah University, obviously, there's something terribly wrong in the ecosystem of the education system. And as my esteemed co-panelists would bear me out and say that anybody in a university, I'm also heading a private university, and it is the job of the management, the faculty, and everybody in the proctoral board to see what is happening behind the eyeballs of all the students and the faculty. And if there's something devious, if there's something destructive, anti-national, you can know also there are so many ways and there are checks and balances to understand. Obviously, something went horribly wrong. Therefore, Al Falah University, he had to explain to the law enforcement what was the reason why all these 4 people were a part of the Al Falah University and they did what they had been accused of. Then there has to be certain checks and balances and also course correction when it comes to the radicalization of such people. Radicalization is not a process that happens in 24 hours. It is over a period of time, and the demeanor, the way of dressing, the conversation, everything changes. And I'm sure my esteemed co-panelists will understand what I'm hinting at. The change is so obvious. One literally has to be blind not to see the telltale signs when a person is being radicalized. And that is the time to intervene and see that a course correction happens and the person does not become a ticking time bomb, as in this case.
You know, one detail that has also been separately disturbing is among the 6 doctors, there is one sole lady doctor, the lady you see on your screen right now, who's also been arrested from Lucknow, Dr. Shaheen, who is understood to be the head of the Jaish women's module as part of this sleeper cell that has been busted and was responsible for the Delhi attack. Take a look at this story. Troubling details.
Dr. Shaheen, part of the Jaish-e-Mohammed Faridabad module, arrested from Lucknow. This is the female doctor who worked at Faridabad's Al Falah Medical College near the capital. And along with Dr. Umar, who allegedly triggered the blast outside the Red Fort, and Dr. Muzammil, who was hiding nearly 3,000 kgs of explosives, is part of the 10/11 terror conspiracy.
It was here the Dr. Shaheen along with Dr. Umar and Dr. Muzammil used to work, the Al Falah Medical College in Faridabad. It was here that her Swift Desire car was recovered with ammunition stacked inside, a network of white-collar terrorists, radicalized on Telegram groups and waiting to strike terror.
Dr. Shaheen's father, Syed Ahmed Ansari, has no clue she could be involved in such activities.
मैंने आपसे बताया कि वो करीब 1.5 साल हो गए। बात अभी 1 महीने पहले लगे हमसे बात हुई है। शाहीन से। हाँ। परवेज से कब आपकी? परवेज से हर हफ्ते होती है बात। कल मेरी नहीं हुई इसलिए बात, कल मैं शादी में था।
The father had not met Shaheen and Parvez for the last 1.5 years as they went to pursue medical studies. Dr. Shaheen's brother, Parvez, has been detained and is under questioning for his possible involvement. He was previously absconding as his Lucknow house was being raided by NIA and ATS teams.
पुलिस ने शाहीन को, डॉक्टर शाहीन को गिरफ्तार किया है कि आपको इस बात की कोई अहमियत है? पता चला आपको किसी से?
हमें तो किसी से नहीं पता, आप ही लोग से पहली बात पता लग रहा है।
NDTV has accessed exclusive details about Dr. Shaheen and her role in the plot. She was allegedly recruited by the Jaish-e-Mohammed to establish the terror organization's women's wing in India. Its Pakistan arm is headed by Jaish chief Masood Azhar's sister. Dr. Shaheen was allegedly assigned to establish and lead the women's wing of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Shaheen's digital trail is now being scanned to unearth the full extent of the women-led terror network that was planned. Investigators believe she was in contact with handlers across the border in Pakistan. NDTV Bureau Report.
Marshal Rana, basic question to you. It's a tough one. Why would people as educated like this be radicalized? Is it because of imams who are involved? What is it that they would, why would they actually do this? When they understand that the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir is changing, it has to be more than just resentment. It has to be something else.
Absolutely, Vishnu. I think it is, first of all, I don't think this has happened in recent past. This must have been, obviously, if they are through the medical colleges and through all this, that means this process must have been for a very, very, very long time. And so it is not surprising. We have seen in ISIS very, very highly educated professionals, engineers, doctors, part of the ISIS as well. Osama bin Laden himself is an example. So it is not about the profession that you are in. Surprising part in this is that the doctors who are supposed to save life are into the business of taking lives. So that is really, really ironical. But so is Imam. He's a man of God, and he becomes the agent of death. So it's a big question to get into the root of it, and it is not something that would have happened in few years. It's a very, very long drawn process. We have seen it through ISIS and various modules of ISIS. We have seen that in all these terror organizations, that the people are really, really brainwashed. They are brainwashed to the level of that where your mind really, really becomes sick, and you actually don't see what is good from bad, and you are ready to take lives in the name of whatever radicalization that has taken, whether it is on the religious fanaticism or any other way that you have been brainwashed. So it is something that is very, very alarming. And particularly institutions like Al-Falah, and there are many other institutions. There are madrasas. We know for sure that where it is radicalization is happening.
And it's going to be
all these institutions where this ecosystem is actually developing must be screened and scanned to the hilt.
And one can only imagine how complicated it's going to be for the security grid to actually look for all of the al-falahs that exist in the country. Now, I'm not saying that India is swarming with them, certainly not, but clearly one is enough to cause an incredible amount of damage and possibly bring two countries to war. That is what we're dealing with here, and it most certainly, Vishnu, will be on the table tomorrow at the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting as well.